triangle rows in both the Mayan Mosaic Quilt and the Warrior Quilt are identical, and they're just made up of two individual pieces. These unfinished 1 1/4 inch strips and equilateral triangles. To make the equilateral triangles, I cut a 4-inch wide by width of fabric strip, and then I use this equilateral triangle ruler, but you can use the template provided in the pattern. So you line up this 4-inch baseline marker with the edge of your strip, and you simply just go through your strip and cut. And if you layer up your strips, you actually will get twice as many triangles with each cut. So now I have one equilateral triangle, and I just flip my ruler and I line up the base again, and then I get my second equilateral triangle, and I just keep going through the strip making identical equilateral triangles until I have the allotted amount for the row. The second step is with one equilateral triangle and one strip, I line up the straight edges and I sew a 1/4 inch seam. My strip is now sewn and ironed, and so with a ruler, and it doesn't matter which ruler you use as long as it has a straight edge, I trim these strips on both sides. So now your unit looks something like this. You take your second color and you line up that bottom corner. So I put right sides together, and now I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam along this edge. Your unit now looks something like this, and so I'm going to take my ruler and trim off these dog ears. So I line up my edge with the edge of that triangle, and I trim off this big one. Let me get it? Yeah. And I don't always use my ruler, but sometimes you can just kind of eyeball it. And now your unit looks like this, and you can see the beginnings of the row start to form. So now I take a strip and I line it up with this edge, and I sew my 1/4 inch seam. So now your unit looks something like this, so you just keep trimming. So I line this up and I just keep trimming. Trim this and then line it up with the bottom. And this right now, because of the 1/4 inch seam allowance, should be measuring 3 3/4, this top to bottom. So you can kind of use your ruler to keep that in line and keep that straight. Okay, so going on with our pattern, we know that a navy triangle is next. Now that you have your strip trimmed, you take your next color, your equilateral triangle, and you align this corner with the top corner. So your dog ear is hanging off the bottom. So you should have this 1/4 inch little overhang right here, and that's how you know you're on track. So now I go to my sewing machine and I sew a 1/4 inch seam along this edge. And now you can see that I have these little dog ears right here. I trim those up and I keep going with my pattern. And after you keep sewing and pressing and trimming, you get a nice row like this. One more thing I'd like to point out is that I just iron my seams all going the same direction. I don't try to iron toward the color just because this is such a narrow strip. Sometimes you can cause bulk in these corners right here. So I just iron one direction, and it works out pretty well.